This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories.
And welcome to my review of Stranger Things 5 Volume 1. And I wanted to get this out sooner, I just have not had any time. I finished watching this Thanksgiving afternoon, and I just haven't had any free time since then to record. And by the time I did, it was like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and honestly, I was just so tired that I just went to bed for the last 2 days, so finally have it out, and I didn't want to rush this or make this out of lower quality because I loved this season. Currently, this is probably my second favorite show from this year, even though it hasn't even finished yet. I would have to see how it does finish, but based on what I've seen so far, I've just absolutely loved it. I think that they did such a great job, and the characters were just really interesting, really, really well done, and it was just it was just awesome to see. I watched the first 3 episodes Wednesday night and waited to see the fourth until I got home from work and was able to actually watch it on a TV because I felt like I just didn't want to watch this for the first time on my phone. And I honestly didn't regret waiting to see it. It was great to watch on a TV, and I basically spent all Thursday not even looking on the internet and just not being able to get out of work fast enough to go and see it. And yeah, I wasn't disappointed. I think that it was definitely worth the wait, and I just really, really enjoyed it. It's honestly a pretty different season in terms of setup. It is not really a bunch of storylines that are separate. It is one main storyline with the characters being very naturally separated to go and investigate different parts of it. And it isn't everyone starting from essentially a different position and working their way into having the storylines and go and cross over. Instead, it's everyone starts out together, and based on what's going on, they're forced to separate and to go on different ways of investigating everything. But it does seem that they're all generally in communication and able to speak to each other until they go into the Upside Down. Yeah, we see more people go into the Upside Down for the first time. I think that of everyone, the only people that haven't been there now is Mike, Lucas, and Max. And Max is, sort of been there through being in Vecna's mind and being able to, see stuff from there, but specifically, like, she hasn't physically been in there. And honestly, I mean, it's just been really interesting going into the storylines that they have set up. Eleven and Hopper, honestly, it was just really nice to see them together. They very much separated with Hopper going into the Upside Down to try and look for Vecna, and then Eleven going and following him. It was honestly just pretty interesting to see, and just with uh just with everything going on with him, it was really nice. The fact that Hopper is being overprotective this time, it wasn't really due to, him not thinking Eleven could do it or wanting to fully keep her safe, the way that everyone's thinking, where he doesn't want her to by Vecna. He knows it's probably going to be happening, but he wants to try and prevent that from happening. So he doesn't want her to go with him because he he's just like, oh, I don't want you to fight her. He wants to try and kill Vecna himself, and he has an entire suicide vest, and that's the reason he wanted to go with him because he knows how dangerous the fight is going to be, and he wants to either try and take out Vecna, and if not that, he wants to injure him so greatly that he's not going to be able to recover from it. And honestly, it just works out really, really well. think that explains things perfectly, and what he was explaining to Joyce, he also want to tell the woman he's in love with that, oh, I'm gonna go suicide bomb this insane, uh, really powerful creature. It was just really well done, and I really enjoyed that. Our encounters in the Upside Down really interesting as they are going and trying to find answers, and we'll see what the military's up to, and thinking that Vecna was captured by them. Although, just in a storytelling position, you know that they are not going to be having captured Vecna because, well, one, Vecna wouldn't be able to control his army, which is something he needs his powers to do, and they do point that out in the show that it really doesn't make too much sense, but it still is something that will ultimately still is worth taking the risk. Having the full on block to her powers and them just straight up calling her kryptonite, yeah, makes sense. That is something really everyone knows being a weakness, and it's probably the most famous term for something that weakens someone. Going through more of it, it was it was just really interesting to see them going through the Upside Down, fighting the soldiers and infiltrating that base, them nearly destroying that one guy's mind, and him going and kind of ratting them out, and them finally having to go and try to escape into back into the Upside Down at the end, where Eleven's being sent out and she just doesn't want to. Ultimately, it is just super interesting. They find Eight, who has been recaptured by the military and is being experimented on again, and it was just pretty interesting to see her back since she's from the is the considered worst episode of the entire show, and it's not even something that the cast isn't aware of. I was watching some interviews, and they're like, "Yeah, the least popular episode is I think it was episode 7 or 8. I think it was might have been 7, but I can't remember if it was 9 or 10 episodes in season 2. But the one where 11 goes and meets 8, and it was just honestly interesting to see her back and to have now, well, obviously spoilers, but I've been talking about that the entire time. But to see now them have three people with powers to go up against Vecna, and I'll be speaking of Will gaining his powers towards the end, because honestly that was how it ended, and that's how I want to end this too. But just going through it, the cast was just doing an incredible job. I really enjoyed what they were doing, and the performances all were just really good. Going now to our next storyline. This is sort of a. I'm gonna go through the sub storyline first of everything that happened with Dustin and trying to keep Eddie's legacy alive. Honestly, I really liked that. Him going and wanting to defend the legacy of Eddie was, I mean, it was just really nice. He very much is changed by the last season, and he's very much taking on Eddie's role and wanting to make sure that just everything he did is not taken the wrong way. He is still defending what he was. He is trying to keep everything alive. Everyone else is like, don't do this because you're going to be putting us in danger unnecessarily. And it was, I mean, it was just really interesting to see, and him being up, and that makes them go and lose Hopper when he's in the Upside Down was it was just really interesting to see. I think that I mean it was just really well written. I really enjoyed it, and going to him with everyone else, this caused just a big fight between him and Steve doesn't want him to go and be doing anything stupid and doesn't want to have him get himself killed. And this is just causing them to be arguing and fighting throughout this entire storyline, and that just really works out because these two actors just play off each other so well, and they are both just genuinely hilarious and just extremely well written, and it was just it was just so much fun to see it and have them be just playing off each other so well, and just continuing through it. Yeah, I mean it was just super fun, super well written, and I think that it was just fascinating to see it. Them going into the Upside Down was also interesting. But before I go to that, I'll talk about the rest of the storyline where Nancy was basically having to deal with both of Jonathan and Steve kind of competing for her and trying to show that they are the, better choice for her. It was very fun. And Steve was Steve was just great in it, and Steve is always great. And then looking at the other side with Jonathan, he is definitely having problems, but he did get a ring to propose to Nancy. We haven't really seen anything from that, but it was it was still great. Also, seeing them all live in the buyer's house was just it was really nice at the beginning seeing that took they went and took in Wheelers took in the buyers because they've been quarantined there and their house no longer is owned by them. And well, there probably is a good amount of abandoned houses, but those are probably ones that were destroyed, and that's why the people left. And yeah, I mean, it was just extremely fascinating to watch it. I had just a great amount of enjoyment with it. I think that just really everything with it was well done. Them competing, and then Nancy kind of being annoyed with it. And this kind of leads into them going with their plan, Hopper leaving them, and then everyone else tracking them. And then when they learn that the Demogorgon has been sent after Holly, that was just a really interesting and intense moment as it went through the Wheeler's house and first really easily took out Mr. Wheeler, who he was just always a joke character. And yeah, I was honestly just thinking, like, I mean, if he does die, like, I mean, it's gonna hurt the characters, but really not the audience. I was having a discussion with someone else, and they're thinking, like, yeah, he's gonna die, and it was kind of implied they're saying, like, he was gonna be a more emotional death. I'm like, I mean, he can die, but he's not gonna be really an emotional death to the audience, at least, because, I mean, he's just been a joke in every single scene he's been seen in. And then I just really didn't think that his death specifically would be that impactful due to that. But Mrs. Wheeler, that was a really, really emotional scene as she is. Her character's been far more developed. Her trying to fight the Demogorgon was great, and actually being able to get in some good hits before she was very obviously taken out because there's no way that she was going to be able to go and defend defend Holly, and that was really just to see because this is basically what would have happened in that situation where Joyce would have been home and Jonathan too. They just would have been severely injured and nearly killed, if not directly killed, because no one would have been there to keep them alive, and then Will would have never been rescued. But yeah, honestly, just going through that, it was just it was just really well done, and it was. I mean, I just honestly really enjoyed it. I think that it was just a really great, brutal scene, and it was just really interesting for Holly to be taken. And I'll continue on to that after I just kind of finish up my final thoughts on that story because besides that, they're going and trying to track Hopper. They discover the wall and find Dustin. That fight between Dustin and Steve happens, and then they go into the Upside Down to follow the Demogorgon, and after they set the trap, and with that, they're following it and crash into the wall that was discovered by both Hopper and Eleven. And with that, the only other major revelation with them is that Dustin is able to figure out that the entire wall is a perfect circle that has its center point being in Hawkins' lab, and something is happening there. So they go to investigate that, and that is basically where their storyline ends for now, and will be continued in the next set of episodes. So honestly, it's just been really interesting, and I really can't wait to see where that storyline goes, especially what happens between Steve and Dustin, since those two are just the best together. And man, I'm like nearly 20 minutes in, and I mean, I haven't even covered like half of what happened in this season. I mean, it's just so much to talk about. But I think you can clearly tell I enjoyed it because, well, I was again 20 minutes in and haven't even covered half of what's going on in it. But let's move on to the next storyline, which is everything with Holly, Vecna, and Max. And honestly, I mean, it was just really great to see. I mean, Max doesn't even show up until literally the last scene of episode 3, but again, mentioning that the really brutal scene it was just really, really cool to see. And going into the next episode in episode 3, because they're just hunting for Holly and really don't see too much from her because they don't want to have the big twist of Mr. Whatsit being uh, Henry being revealed at all, or Vecna through the form of Henry. And I mean, it was just really cool to see. I spent episode 3 with him, basically, tricking Holly to stay there and convincing her there's monsters and everything in the woods, even though they're trapped in his mind and well, everything is controlled by him. And he really can't tell everything going on in there, and it is just super interesting to see. She is just kind of building the courage. She gets the note from who she thinks is I'll be going by Henry for this and says who she knows him as. And obviously the only reason that she's calling him Mr. What's It is to go in, basically not let anyone know that it is him, because if they start saying she's like, oh, I haven't mentioned a friend named Henry, then well, her brother and sister will be like, hold on, you're in danger. We need to figure out what's going on, because there's no way it's a coincidence that she's being visited in her head by someone named Henry, and that is Vecna's her birth name. And what he would still think of himself as, because he doesn't really know that everyone is calling him Vecna. And I mean, it is just absolutely fascinating to see. It was really cool to see him just kind of being there and pulling off this illusion where he's trying to be the nice guy, but we all know that he's a monster, and it is super interesting. And something I didn't even think about is until literally this moment he's obsessed with clocks. He has 12 victims that are going to be uh the children that he's messing with, and those 12 children would be each hour on a clock. So I think that when they get the vision, when Will gets the vision of everyone being in those things, it actually could be spread throughout the thing, and they could be creating this giant clock that surrounds the upside down in the giant circle with a wall that's going around it. And honestly, I mean, that's honestly just really, really interesting to think about. And I mean, honestly, it's just really, really crazy to think of, because it's just absolutely insane. I think that with that wall going up around that, and the fact that he Vecna really could only affect people in Hawkins, is that that wall is probably always there, and that's as far as the Upside Down goes. Vecna probably has created some stuff inside of that wall where he's keeping everyone, but he's probably trying to expand the Upside Down to be a complete mirror reflection of the entire planet. And then he's going to also be invading Earth with his army to basically have it take over everything. And yeah, honestly, I mean, it's just pretty interesting. That's just my guess at what's going to happen, but we'll see. But then going just back to the storyline, Max and Holly, she is really hesitant to trust Max, but then Max reveals the really terrible idea that Mike had to get the orange mohawk, and is uh is able to go and gain her trust. They go into this memory that is some memory so tragic or horrific that Vecna just refuses to go in there, and she reveals that she's seen all this stuff but wasn't able to make it out in time when Lucas was playing the music. And with that, Henry was basically letting her stay in there but won't go in. And I mean, just really everything with that is really interesting, and I do wonder what this memory will be about. And I mean, I'm just really excited to see that Holly is being very brave, especially for someone her age to go and go back essentially into what she knows is a serial killer's house. Although she's trapped in his mind, so it really doesn't make too much difference. But it's either be there or be trapped forever, and for them to make a plan to escape, and it's honestly just going to be just extremely interesting. I think that whether they basically have to find a way to get Max out, then she could use that to be able to get the rest of the kids out because there's gonna be no way for them to get Holly out since they can't do anything with the music for her since she is with Vecna himself. And I mean, I'm just gonna be really excited to see this because it's just really interesting. And how it's been another like 10 minutes that I've just been talking about this storyline. Not exactly, it's been like 7 or 8 minutes, but man, I mean, it was. Man, I just really enjoyed it, and continuing through everything. Yeah, I mean, really interesting to see. I think that Vecna is again just such an interesting character as an antagonist, and I really just can't wait to see more from him. But his entire mind present thing is super fascinating, and I really just can't wait to see what it is. And yeah, well, I was most likely guessing again, this is probably something in Vecna's mind when I first saw it, especially to the fact that he looked like Henry, and everything was just probably too convoluted of an illusion for him to be keeping up while he controls the hive mind and everything else. I just figured that this has to be something inside of his head because, and as I said, it's just going to be too convoluted for him to be creating this illusion of the upside down when I think that he's almost certainly not in his house because that would be the first place that everyone would have checked to look for him, at least from Hopper and everyone else, because they know that that was his main base in season 4, and there is no way that he would have done that again because everyone would have just easily found him there. So yeah, honestly, it just made sense for me that this was going to be something about his mind, and I mean, it was one of those things, probably the back of my mind, but I was actively thinking because I was just enjoying the episode that Max would be in there, and I really wasn't surprised when I saw her. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and it kind of validates everything I was thinking of. But it was just something that I wasn't actively thinking of because I was just sitting there watching, enjoying the episodes, and no one to think too much of what was going on because I just wanted to enjoy the episodes. Now, before going into the most major of the storyline, which is basically everything involved with Vecna's plans to kidnap the kids specifically, and that epic final battle of the first volume at the military base, but just going into some of these storylines that are not exactly smaller, but they're like smaller parts of these storylines. Everything with Murray just going and smuggling everything in. Honestly, yeah, that makes sense. He wasn't seen in that last scene in season 4. I think that he was just outside and didn't go straight back into Hawkins. He probably went back to his home while Joyce and Hopper went back to Hawkins. And with that, honestly, nice for him to coming in and just smuggling all these different materials they need. Very much being the character that we all enjoy, and him kind of just acting crazy in it. And yeah, honestly, I mean, it was just there's nice moments with him, and then going into, I mean, not much with him since mainly the only big scene he has is when the Demogorgons are chasing him to get the kids, and really not much else is happening with him because he's not a super major character this season. But going with some of the other storylines, I'll talk. There's one I want to kind of talk about slightly, but this ties in very majorly to the ultimate climax of the season, which that is the stuff between Will and Robin, where she's basically telling him to embrace his true self, and there's essentially going into the thing that I think everyone's basically been thinking that the character Will is gay, and he's really just too afraid to admit any of that. And I think it's just making it very obvious where she sees it, and she sees specifically what he's feeling, and saying that she had this exact same feeling. Obviously, not outright saying it because, well, it's still a really dangerous thing to say in this time. But her going and telling him that, yeah, I just had all these feelings, and I finally realized that it wasn't a specific crush on this person, but me just trying to express these feelings I had, and just going to someone that I saw him kind of got obsessed with. And I think this is basically the fact that, he will admit it, but unlike some people are guessing that he won't end up with Mike, that this is just specifically a kind of just one-sided kind of crush, and that he will find someone that will want to be with him, but it's probably not going to be Mike, and I'm glad with that since I want to see Mike 11 and Will all survive, and definitely rather see Mike and 11 get together instead of changing things up. Just for Will's sake specifically, because I feel like Mike really wouldn't want to not be with 11 unless she actually dies, and I feel like 11 is basically almost guaranteed to survive because her dying is just too obvious. But just going through really everything, yeah, honestly, just the storyline that also had a really nice moments, but really was only for one episode, was episode 2, where Mike and Nancy are trying to figure out who Mustard or What's It is, and it kind of ties in with the other storyline with Robin and Will, where she's helping. I realized I forgot to talk about this, but Robin's helping Will also go and look into everything, realizing he's kind of like a radio antenna to the Upside Down. That's before we, obviously revealed at the end that he isn't just an antenna. He has gained powers from everything that's happened to him, and is basically going to be the good version of one, which is him basically in the same powers as Henry, with him, or Henry slash Vecna slash one, with him being able to go and control the hive mind, and be able to do basically everything Vecna does, and with it, him, 11, and 8 are going to be able to team up and take down Vecna, and it'll be pretty interesting to see, although I don't know how they're going to convince her to stay and not get out of Hawkins, since the military was kind of devastated in that battle, and I'm assuming a lot of people are going to be fleeing Hawkins now since the quarantine has essentially been broken, and the soldiers are going to be able to enforce them staying in the town. But I'll definitely be seeing some of the people stay, especially the main cast, because they'll be there. I think some of the doctors will stay to obviously like man the hospital, because you'll have those ones that are capable of the patients in their own lives, and say like, oh yeah, we've been fine here so far, so we'll just stay here to take care of these people. And yeah, honestly, it's just been pretty interesting, but going back to Mike and Nancy, this is really the first time that I think they got a significant amount of screen time together, and at least and specifically in the case of like everything with Stranger Things mysteries, not just times them to be together as family, because this is them kind of realizing that yeah, they were partially at least at fault for everything that happened. They knew that Vecna has threatened their family and well, everything with that, and that they could have told them to be a little more prepared, especially with them being trapped and quarantined by the military. So they realized that yeah, they could have done more, but they're not fully at fault because still it's Vecna in control of this, and they're not responsible for what specifically happened with him, and they have tried to stop him and done everything they could besides telling their family that yeah, this guy might be coming after us because I mean it's also kind of hard to explain that because of Vecna being a something that sounds very much made up, and a good chance that their family wouldn't believe them. But still, I think it does make sense that they're like, yeah, we should have still told them, and they at least would have believed us when the Demogorgon showed up. But yeah, I think there was a really nice storyline between them figuring out that specifically Henry was the imaginary friend, and knowing that they need to go and figure out with other people that, oh, this Henry's been visiting them. Oh, Vecna through as Henry has been visiting them, and we need to get them out of town to get them out of Vecna's reach, since it seems that he doesn't have a reach outside of Hawkins, based on what Will's experiencing, not having any connection to him. But yeah, honestly, I mean, again, super interesting, and I just really enjoyed that. And now to go into the final and main storyline. Man, I'm 38 minutes into this, and we haven't talked about the most major part, but I am reaching towards the end. Probably another like 10, maybe 15 minutes at the most. So if you've still been watching, thank you. But honestly, I just needed to talk about this. Really haven't had a chance to talk about it since only one other person in my family has fully watched it, and haven't had a chance to talk too much yet because of no one else seeing it and not wanting to spoil it for anyone else. So just had a lot to talk about. Talked to it about some friends online, but haven't had a chance, like just sit down and just to talk fully about what I thought of this season. And since that thing online is just me like writing, it's a lot harder to do than just me just speaking about everything, no script or anything for this, but just me just talking about my just pure love for this and just how great it was for me. And yeah, honestly, just continuing through it, as I said, I really loved it, enjoyed it, think it was great, and yeah, honestly, really, just really, really enjoyed it. But now moving on to the final storyline, which is just everyone trying to keep these kids safe, trying to set the trap for to go and track the Demogorgon, and then also having them go and well, just to get the kids out of the military base. And yeah, I mean, it was just really, really crazy to see. But just going into it, starting off with just them going and trying to save that just really awful kid. I don't remember his name. Well, he was just honestly a lot more funny than I expected. I really wasn't sure what he was going to be because you didn't see too much of him in the trailer, and I see him in the poster trying to figure out what's going on with him. I'm just kind of expecting him to be this really annoying character, but he was honestly a lot more fun than I expected. He was this absolutely spoiled child that really selfish and just really, really poorly behaved. And with him, it was honestly really interesting to see him go and basically be forced to go and kind of save everyone because he knows that's kind of really the only way he could be saved. He's revealed the truth, and honestly, it was just really great with him. It was just pretty interesting to see with him, and just everything with him being tracked by Vecna and him having to save everyone was nice. Them going and just having that really awesome trap set up in his house, and Erica going and drugging everyone, and then specifically attacking her friend who is just absolutely super annoying and refusing to eat the pie. She goes in, literally injects him with injects her with the what's called whatever knockout drug they had. It was really great. We don't really see anything from them after that, so we don't really know what they're going to be thinking and if they're still just knocked out because really they don't know what's going on besides Erica's friend, and I was honestly just really great. Honestly, just had a lot of fun with that. With them going and digging the tunnel, going to the bathroom, and having the escape plan was nice. They go and get the kids out, at least some of them, and then they are discovered by the military. And just at the perfect wrong time because Vecna is able to realize, oh, they're all trying to get him out, and goes and executes his plan. It probably helped them a little bit because Vecna would have sent his army regardless, but this at least managed to split up some of the Demogorgons, and this gives them the opportunity to at least try and save some of them, although ultimately it doesn't work because he is able to overpower them and get all the kids. But with this, at least there is a really good uh, explanation for everything is going on in them having to kind of separate out, and honestly it was just honestly just super interesting to see as everyone is just trying to go and escape, and then there's multiple attacks by the Demogorgons all happening at the same time, and that was just pretty fascinating to see as I think of this when I was saying some of the behind the scenes stuff. It was I think I said I can't remember how many soldiers, but I think it was around like 80 soldiers that were there that they had to fight, but then having him Vecna control three Demogorgons there. I think it was two going after the ones that Lucas was leading, and then I think it was like three or four going after Murray and Robin the inside of the truck. So he was controlling what I think it was around at least seven, maybe eight, and it was maybe nine, but I mean it was pretty interesting to see him doing that, and then also having Vecna go and come in himself. So you're just seeing how much more powerful he has become, being able to control. I'm just gonna say eight Demogorgons at the same time. On top of that, also going and specifically attacking and being able to go and specifically go in there to even the odds to his side and make sure that all of those kids have been captured. So yeah, honestly, just was just super interesting to see. Then going through honestly just really everything else, I really really enjoyed watching just really watching that battle go on. It was extremely well done, extremely chaotic, and really cool to watch. And it just continued getting more and more interesting until we got to that just final moment where Vecna shows up, and in one of the interviews it said they wanted to basically recapture the terror and everything from Darth Vader's appearance in Rogue One with the hallway scene. And I think they absolutely perfectly nailed that. It was extremely brutal, extremely well done, and extremely violent. I really enjoyed it. It was great seeing as he went through everyone, then went to Will, basically gloated to him, and then took the kids. And with that, we get to the final one where basically most of the characters that Will is close to are in danger. He sees Mike about to be killed. Same with Lucas, and finally Robin, who he's just been recently getting close to. And with it, he goes through all these memories that they made of him and him, like in these different moments that we have seen mentioned before, but not seen shown. Like him meeting Mike, him and Jonathan building Castle Myers, and I was, just kind of like just a bunch of other moments like that. Him making that spaceship that his mom mentioned before, and ultimately it leading to the moment where he goes and embraces himself and taps into the hive mind fully and gains powers. He goes and kills the Demogorgons that are going to kill his friends, and showing his powers is really awesome to see him going, and then ending with him wiping the blood coming from his nose was just great. And I mean, it was just the perfect ending to mid-season and making you want to see more, but also just being content enough with what you've got so far. Ending with a perfect cliffhanger, and honestly, I just really can't wait to see the next half of the, well, not exactly half, but next 3 quarters of the season come out on Christmas. Yeah, just another reason to be more excited for Christmas, and really just can't wait to see it. Obviously, it's going to make a lot of things a lot harder because they're dropping these right around major holidays, so I'll try and get the Christmas one out as soon as possible when I see it, but obviously it probably won't be out until the 26th. But yeah, I absolutely love this. Nearly 50 minutes straight of me talking about it, and with breaks and stuff for me to kind of just drink water and stuff. This video has taken just about an hour to record. It's about 11:15 right now, and I started recording it at 10:15. And yeah, honestly, this might be my favorite season of the show. I just have to wait for it to finish. Right now, it's definitely up there, but I can't say it's my favorite until the season is finished. Favorite season 4, then probably season 1 after that. And just based on what we've seen so far, I definitely rank it below season 1. So basically above seasons 3 and 2. But it's definitely at least on equal levels of 1 with me, and 1 is basically just behind season 4 for me, so yeah, honestly, really can't wait to see more. As long as it keeps up this quality, this is definitely going to be my favorite season. But yeah, honestly, I want to know what you think. Please let me know in the comments, and I'll see you on the next episode of Legends and Theories.
Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, check out the video on screen, and may the Force be with you.